Hello, 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 and welcome back to the King of Diamonds channel, where today, once again, we'll be discussing the biggest show on planet Earth right now, Stranger Things, as it just released part 2 of Season 5, its final season. The first time around when I watched the first part of the show and I did my review and I gave it 4 out of 4 and said that all the episodes were good. And I meant that. I felt that way. And I rewatched it before part 2 came out. I just felt that it didn't hold up very well after the initial hype in my head was gone. I still think the first episode of season 5 was really great and I enjoyed that thoroughly. And I still enjoy the 4th episode of the season. But that episode 2 and 3, it's not that they're bad, but they just feel like they just drag on a little bit more than I remember them dragging on. And I think the reason why is because I had that, I was so excited for it to come out. Now that part 2 of season 5 is out though, and I've got to do a review on that. Once again, this is one big review. Because it's part 1, part 2, part, whatever, the finale. It's not like my other reviews where I do a review and then I go to the next thing and I'm going to list the cast members and the genres and stuff. That takes a lot of time to edit. So just think of this as the same way it's part 2 to the show. It's part 2 of the first review. So if you want to get my full thoughts, go watch the first part and then watch this. Let's make this very clear. There will be spoilers in this review. I'm going to spoil stuff from the show. So please, if you haven't watched the show, go watch it before you watch whatever I'm about to say. I just have too much to say about it for there to not be spoilers in this review. Okay, now we're safe. Let's get into it. If I could describe my feelings on part 2 of this season with one word, underwhelming. Why do I say this? For many reasons. It's not that this season doesn't have its character moments. I think part 2 definitely does. Some things were really satisfying and I did enjoy watching it, but there are other times when I gotta be honest, I was really frustrated. Genuinely frustrated and quite disappointed. I don't like saying that about something I like, obviously. I want the show to be great. This part just wasn't it. I'm sorry. To anyone who really liked that. That's great for you, and I'm really happy for you that you liked it so much. I enjoyed... Okay, let's get into what I did like. Okay, obviously, there are a lot of good character moments. Dustin and Steve, as we all know, collectively, I think we can agree what they did there was done very tastefully. The argument they had cut deep, the way they reconciled in the end felt nice and warm inside, but also so sad. I almost cried. It genuinely, felt real, and I appreciated what they did there, and I'm glad they took their relationship in that direction, and the way that it all ended out was really nice, and I'm excited to see what happens in the finale with them. And then we have the twist, which is basically the discovery of what the Upside Down is. What is the Upside Down? What is Vecna's plan? All that stuff. And they had one big reveal where they discussed what it is, and basically the idea is that there's 2 worlds, and the Upside Down is connecting the 2 worlds together, and it's like this sub area in between them that it's like a bridge, so you can travel between the 2 worlds. And Vecna wants to connect the 2 worlds, mash them together and create a new one, or use the other world, you know what I mean, I think. My girlfriend, who is a lot smarter than me, had to explain that one to me. After I heard it from the television screen, she had to sit me down and actually properly explain it to me a bit more. But honestly, it makes sense, to be honest. I will say, however, I did find the supernatural quality to Stranger Things Season 1 very intriguing. I liked how it felt scientific, but it was also, it felt more supernatural though. The threat, I mean. And now it doesn't feel supernatural anymore. And it feels purely science-based, it's another planet and there's all these creatures. And it feels more like sci-fi rather than fantasy. But it makes sense, and I'm okay with that twist, and I'm excited to see how it goes later on. Now that I've got those things out the way, let's talk about what I was very annoyed about. I think we can all agree that this show claims that the stakes are incredibly high all the time, constantly 24/7. They're talking about how important everything is, how everyone's gonna die, and the worlds are colliding, and it's really important and big and grand. But do we feel like it is? I don't, and I think it's because now that I watched these two parts back to back, I watched the first part again, and then I went and watched the new part when it came out, and it just drags a lot. Not much happens, and there's it's a long run times for each episode. These are hour-long episodes. They're not 40 minutes, they're not half an hour, they're hour-long episodes, and it feels like everything that has happened right now, at this point that we've established now, I feel like it all could have been handled a lot faster and done within the first part, and I feel like that's not a good thing. I think the pacing of the show is really off at the moment, especially in this part. Part 1, I was able to deal with it, and it had its moments where it was very slow, but it also had its moments where it wasn't. And I'm looking at all of what we've got laid out on the table, and I'm thinking, wow, there's actually a lot of fat you could have cut out so that you could make this move a bit faster, and we could establish more. Max's scene in episode 6, I think it was, where she needs to enter back into the real world, and her and Holly just stand around talking the whole time. And it really made me so mad. I was so frustrated, and I felt awful watching it. I was not enjoying myself at all. And not because like, oh, that's the emotion they want to get out of you from this scene. No, I felt frustrated at the writers for making this scene drag on for a million years. That's another thing. I know that this show has gotten criticisms for having too many characters, and I totally understand that, but I never was really bothered by it because I loved all these characters and they all got a good amount of screen time. For some reason, this season makes me feel the feeling of there being too many characters to worry about more than any of the other seasons, because I will be watching one moment between two characters, and you know what shows and movies do where they cut between the different locations where all the characters are, and they'll rotate it, you know. They'll go from this person, and then you get back to them later, but they got to go through all the other scenes with the other characters to show what everyone's doing at that point in time. By the time that loop comes back around to the other characters, I almost forget that we were even, on that scene at all. By the time it gets back to Molly and Max and what they're doing, I've already forgotten about them because I was so focused on the other stuff, because there's so many characters with scenes going on. I can't remember more than I think one scene with Hopper. I remember one Hopper scene, Jim Hopper, in the whole part 2. One. I can think of one scene where he was in. That's not a good thing. That means it's forgettable, I think. I think that means it's forgettable. And I know that there's the big thing that everyone is really annoyed about right now, which is Nancy and Jonathan's scene. Yes, we're going to talk about that scene. When I watched it, I thought, it's weird, but I guess it makes sense for the characters, for them to establish that, hey, we're different and we like different things, I guess, but that doesn't mean we can't be together, and we're just not ready to get married, but we still love each other, and that's okay. We can just keep it things are how they are, and we'll feel less suffocated. And that's how I interpreted it. Turns out that's how everyone interpreted it. Do you know why? Because that's what the scene communicated. And then apparently the Duffer Brothers posted on a social media platform or something that was supposed to be a breakup scene. To anyone who didn't know that, yeah, apparently that scene, yes, that scene with the ring and he throws it away, apparently that's meant to be them breaking up, not just saying, oh, we're not ready to get married and all that. And apparently that really confused a lot of people. I know it confused me because obviously the scene didn't communicate that well enough. It wasn't very clear about that. That really bothers me. I think in general, their dialogue has just gotten worse as the show's gone on for the most part. I mean, I look back at scenes in season 1 and I see how tight a lot of the scenes are, even season 2. And I like season 4 like any other person does pretty much. It's my second favorite, obviously. First one's the best, in my opinion. I think that's the popular opinion as well. But I will say, if I look at season 2 and then I look at season 4 and I think which season has better dialogue, better writing for the characters, not the story-wise, but the characters, what they say, I would still say that season 2's dialogue is better than season 4's dialogue. But then season 4's story is better than season 2's story. This season though, season 5, I do not like the dialogue very much. I was not particularly bothered by anything in part 1, but I'm definitely noticing some cracks here in part 2. And it's sad because I was really excited for this. I really was. And yeah, when I look at these batch of episodes that we've just gotten, I feel like it doesn't just not do well on its own, but it also kind of hurts part 1 a little bit because of its failures. It's sort of damaging what came before. I still think that there is a possibility, even if small, that they can turn this around and the last episode could be amazing and incredible. And that would be great. It would be. But it has to be really great if they're going to save this, because this is very disappointing. I wouldn't put season 5 so far on the level of season 3, because season 3, I don't dislike it, but I definitely think it was very obviously the weakest season of the show. I don't think season 5 has reached that or anything yet. It's still a good season of television so far for the most part, but it's just very underwhelming considering all the hype. And I think it's because of what season 4 did, where season 4 feels like a climax. It feels like a really big event. And maybe, just maybe it set the bar a little bit too high for the stakes, where everything that was going on was super important and we felt that. Whether you really liked it a lot in retrospect, if you look at how you felt when you were watching it, I know I felt kind of scared for what might happen, you know, because it was genuinely going back to its horror roots that it had in the first season, and I felt like there was a chance that something bad genuinely could happen to these characters, and it did at the end. All the world, you know, gets split into all these pieces and the ground's breaking up. Cut to season 5 and it's covered with metal plates. That was one of the things that I ignored my disappointment of, I guess, because I thought, oh, maybe the way they'll go about it is going to be fine. But I don't know, it seemed kind of pointless. It would have been nice if we had like monsters coming out of the ground for this season, and it could have been like an apocalyptic Earth where the Upside Down is connected with Earth, and now people have to fend off the Demogorgons to survive. That's how I originally thought it would end up being, and I just wanted to give the show time to breathe and show me what they had in mind, and then I can have my criticisms. And there's still a lot of that sentiment that I'm holding, where I need to wait for the finale to give my full opinion and not be too judgmental, because obviously this is not a full story yet. It is not complete. We still have 2.5, 3 hours that this finale is going to be. That's a long episode. There's a lot you can get done in that amount of time. So I'm going to allow it that time. I'm not going to say that this volume was bad, but it was disappointing. It was underwhelming. It was weaker than part 1. You know what? I'm not going to score these episodes now. I always do that, but I'm not going to do that this time because I don't feel it's appropriate. I'm going to wait for the finale. When I watch the finale, I will get back to you at the end of that video, and I will give you an overall score of the whole season. But for now, you're gonna have to just wait on my number, because I just can't. I don't know what I can say, how I'm gonna score this when it's 3 new episodes and it's connected with that first part. We'll see what my opinion ends up being at the end. So yeah, Stranger Things is a show, and it does exist, and you can watch it. Anyway, bye!